morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you? It's a lovely sunny
Very
day,
well.
isn't it?
We're going to have a lovely day, lovely weekend from what I can see on the weather. So, yeah.
We've got Kate watching us at the moment, I think, from sunny Dartmouth. So hi, Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Wish we were there.
Morning, Amanda.
Wish I was there.
Yeah, me too. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? But we'll just have to look out the window and get a nice gin in our hand at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So we've got our first Savvy Says session today. Try and say that after you've had a few gins.
Difficult one, isn't it?
It
Savvy Says, but great topic.
Yeah, it reminds me of can you remember that 80s song Charlie Says, never cross the road, or something like that. Yeah. But we've got a great topic today. We're going to be talking about being open and positive when you get back in with your sales teams, which I think you wrote a little blog post for us about, didn't you?
I did. So a couple of weeks ago, I wrote a blog post just to explain a little bit more in terms of now what the hospitality and events industry are opening their doors. We need to look at how we actually grasp the business by both hands. We obviously need this now. We've had our doors closed for so many months. So it's all about, this particular session is going to be all about how we are positive and we are open with our sales teams in to ensure that they feel comfortable and confident in what they do. And that could be from looking at sort of one-to-ones and finances, discussions that are being open about what the business needs, the requirements are, and really how we grasp those inquiries and convert them and turn them round, and keeping the sales team and of course all the teams positive and motivated during this quite sort of transient time. So we'd just have a little discussion about how we do that and being open and positive to the rest of the team, really.
Absolutely. I think it's always important, isn't it? But it's just become more and more important. And I've seen so much during lockdown, especially with my social media hat on as well, about being authentic and how important it is, and how people appreciate honesty. So I think it's even more important, isn't it, at the moment? Okay.
So Becky, how would you then encourage openness and within a venue and your sales team? How would you sort of suggest?
Well, like I say, I think when I used to manage a sales team myself, I always used to try and encourage this anyway. But I think it's even more important at the moment because, as you say, teams are going to need reassurances, aren't they? I mean, we can all see every day that we go onto LinkedIn how upsetting it is to see that more and more people in the industry are being made redundant. So those that we have got in as a team, they need to be reassured. So it's just so important that we are really open with them, and where possible, because I appreciate in some companies there's things that can't be discussed, but where possible, let them know exactly where we're at. Not, try not to mask the situation. If we don't have a lot of business in, they're not stupid, they can see that. So it's including them in everything they do. I think it's having that open door policy, isn't it? And making sure that if they've got any questions they can ask, and at whatever level as well, up to the GM as well, they should have an open door policy. They should be able to go and see them as well. Probably having more one-to-ones, more team meetings than you probably would have previously. And if you've got like a 10 at 10 that lots of venues and hotels have, I remember from my Marriott days, it's chatting about things then as well on a daily basis. If challenges are going to come up, aren't they? Because we're all kind of dealing with things that are completely new and we don't know all the answers to all of the questions. So it could be a time to discuss those challenges that have come up, and maybe discuss solutions as a team as to how you can overcome that, really. I think I guess it means a lot, I think, to teams when you explain decisions that are made as well. I mean, I know that we at Selling Savvy always encourage accountability within sales teams as much as possible. I appreciate that's probably going to be a little bit more difficult than it was before, because might have had this great strategy in place that was brilliant for pre-lockdown COVID times, and now it's going to probably be a little bit more reactive, isn't it? They're going to probably
have
question,
to change it all and reassess what you need to do and the whole thing, isn't it?
So it is going to be harder. So they are going to probably look to you maybe to make more decisions and not quite be as accountable as they used to being. So I think it's making sure that if you're a sales team leader or above, etc., that you're just really explaining why you're making the decisions that you are. It's not just a no, we can't do that, or yes, we must take that. You know, it's an explanation so they understand it themselves, and then hopefully we'll be able to become more accountable as they get to understand.
And I think also, I think I think as the sales manager or sales team leader needs to probably be more available. That reassurance that if the team's unsure about an inquiry or not sure what they should do or not sure what they should say to a potential that's been asked a question that might be a bit COVID-19 related, I think it's having that assurance that someone's there to answer those questions and offer that support, isn't it? So
they need to be amongst them more if they're not usually amongst them, don't they? And one of the things that I know Kate says on the things that clients don't want to hear right now that we were talking about on Delegate Wranglers, they were saying that instead of, it's all right to be honest and say you're not sure, but you will find out.
Absolutely.
Instead of trying to blag it, or again, goes back to being open with your clients, doesn't it?
That's it. So and you're right, you have to be open with your clients, because you can't really, you can't blag things like this. This is quite, this is a serious subject. You can't not know. And generally will end up, it'll bite you back. So it's not worth it. So
definitely.
I know some of the clients I've worked with in the past, they've been very open in terms of their finances. Obviously I've worked with clients who have been independent venues, and one thing that I think is really quite important is that they share those financial decisions down the line as to why. So for example, one hotel used to say, in order for us to open our doors and before we've actually served a cup of coffee or had someone stay in our guest bedroom, the operating costs is about £3,000 a day. And I think that helps not only the sales team but the overall operational team, hotel or venue or whatever, to understand exactly what's needed to actually be brought through the door, the inquiries that are needed and why the need or the conversion requirement, so that they take ownership. They almost sort of feel like, I feel quite important because my company's informed us of the financial situation we're in or what we're doing and what a particular win or business would mean to that company. I think that's quite important as well.
I think it's very important. It's a very good, very, very good point. I think it makes a huge difference because they can see what they're doing and how that impacts, doesn't it, on the overall, on the final stats. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose also another thing to think about is welcome suggestions and improvements, and not necessarily just from the sales team, but from the whole team. They're your eyes and ears on the shop floor, and I've had some great inspirational ideas thrown at me from one of the breakfast waitresses or whatever it may be.
Definitely.
That a sales team would have missed, because sometimes you can be so you don't see the woods for the trees because you're so involved in it, whereas the team that actually work in the floor are completely in with it. So,
I couldn't agree more. And I think as well as that, it's probably making sure, I know this is kind of going off topic a little bit, but as the sales team or the director of sales or whoever, also making sure that we're asking the actual people that are coming in-house more at the time about how they feel, etc. So that feedback is going to become much more important, isn't it, as well, from clients, like you say. So no, definitely. I think operationally, some of the best salespeople I've had are people that have started out in operations, because they have also got a good kind of like sales skills, because they understand both sides of the coin, don't they? And they really get the customers. Yeah.
And I think what we ought to mention is obviously host regular weekly or bi-weekly sales meetings. I think that's really important, so that everyone has an agenda, understands what's required, and you know, that all of the sales team participate in that agenda. I don't know about you, but many years ago I've been in sales meetings and you just sit, listen to finance, and you're so bored, you know. Whereas at least if you send an agenda and each person has got something to do and to contribute, then they're more involved and take, as we always talk about, accountability and ownership of what they're doing. So I think that's quite important.
Absolutely, another great point. So how do you think, I mean, obviously we need to do this with our sales teams anyway, but how do you think we can sort of spin in a positive light on things, give more praise, and you know, help the sales team stay more motivated? I mean, I know there's lots of things I used to do with my sales teams when I was at Marriott, but any other ideas that you might have?
I think we definitely need to celebrate all of our wins there and then, absolutely.
And I think it's going to be the smaller wins as well, isn't it? Whereas maybe before it was always like the bigger wins. Every kind of like booking and win is going to be so important now, isn't it?
It's going to be crucial now, absolutely. I think we're probably going down the route of it's going to be, particularly for hotel, more day meeting as opposed to residential.
Yes.
Although it's not the money maker, it's again, like you said, it's a win. So we have to celebrate the win, because of course that client in a year or 18 months time,
I was about to say,
might turn it around and want a great you know, a conference.
And if they're comfortable and feel safe at that small meeting, then when they come to have that bigger conference, like you say, in a year's time, or a hybrid event or something, they're going to feel super confident to come back to you. I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And mini competitions, I think, are quite a good idea. You know, where you're encouraging your staff. I know a few years back, I used to run a competition with my sales team that was it was very basic. We had a target of how many bed nights we had to get a day and a week, and we used to go, right, we've got 75 to get today, what do we need to do? And it's simple targets that are manageable, that
are broken down
and you can actually sort of take ownership. And of course then on the whiteboard, write down who's done
the
what.
whiteboard.
Yeah, so
we used to do something at Marriott, sorry, you just reminded me, when I was heading up the sales office there. We used to, every quarter, we had to come up with a different way to display or portray our goals and targets. And I remember one year, it was a sporting theme. So we had somebody in the office who was much more creative than me, made this kind of like podium that went up, I don't know how many levels, 10 levels. And we all had like little sportsmen as our, as us, and we all had different ones. And we all moved up the podium depending on how much we converted.
That's great.
And it was just, I mean, it's similar to the whiteboard, but it's just making it a lot more visual and a bit more fun. But there's so many things you could do. And like I say, you get the team involved in that. I think it was their idea, you know, of how to do it. So,
Yeah, and the aim then is getting to the top, and then the prizes and sharing the wins with the whole team. I mean, it's back to basics, but it's simple. But again, it's where everyone takes ownership and goes, right.
I think it can be easily forgotten though, can't it, at the moment? I'm not critically either for people, because obviously they've got so much they're thinking about. It is back to basics, but it can be just easily forgotten when everything's going on.
And I think also, obviously, to going back to sort of ensuring that the team receive the praise, I think it's important that we also encourage the senior management and the general manager or the director or the owners of the business to recognise and also to praise. Sometimes we can see them as being in the sort of the
ivory tower.
The ivory tower, absolutely. And they don't, you know, and I think to receive a thanks, a personal thanks, or even if it's a telephone call or an email from the owner, you know, an owner, that
Makes a massive difference, doesn't it? I mean, the way that I'm motivated myself, I mean, is not necessarily with money, although I'll never say no, obviously. But if somebody says, "Oh wow, you've done a great job," that would make my day when I was working in the hotels. If the GM had said, "You've done a great job," or even like written a card or something, or just come down and said, "You've done a great job. Here's like a spa voucher for you to go and relax in the spa," or something. I think it just means the world to them. Really does.
And like you say, money, it doesn't have to be monetary. And I'm very much like you as well, to receive a thanks from someone that I wasn't expecting to receive a thanks, or a bouquet of flowers on your desk as you arriving on. It's just such a nice, it just
makes you smile.
It does. And sometimes we forget about that, don't we, with our teams? We're so conscious of the actual job in hand, that when something is positive, we sometimes forget that that person's achieved something.
I also think it needs to be shared amongst the wider venue as well. I mean, obviously, the same goes for the rest of the venue. They need to be celebrating their successes as well. But the sales team positives should be shared, and any positives that's happened, so positive reviews that have come in, that kind of thing. I think it should just be really communicated. And again, maybe that's something that is communicated daily again, and like you say, at weekly team meetings, we've had these amazing positive reviews that have come in, we've had these great successes around the whole venue, and so each department knows about those positives to keep them motivated.
So I recall one hotel I worked for used to, anyone that was that had received a comment on TripAdvisor, as in their name, they would get a spa voucher. So it's things like that, isn't it, that would work. Small gestures go a long way, don't they?
No, they definitely do. And I mean, you could even the old kind of method of getting in pizzas and stuff like that. I mean, again, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but it could be a real thank you. One lunchtime, couldn't it, for them? So there's loads you can do.
So then, of course, we wanted to just also touch base on sort of what we, how we ensure that the sales opportunities that come through to the venue property, what we need to do to ensure that they are completely grasped hold of and looked after properly and converted, I suppose, ultimately is what the aim is. So
I think it kind of goes back, doesn't it, to we're in a different time, whereas before we'd have like a nice, hopefully your venue would have a nice clear strategy, not everywhere does, that makes the sales team accountable. But now it kind of goes back to they're going to have to question maybe a little bit more, so we do need to give them guidelines still, so they know who to speak to or what they still can do off their own back without having to speak to somebody. And obviously that is up to the sales team leader and the general manager, etc., to make sure that they're aware of those guidelines. But I think, again, there are lots and lots of things that I know we used to do at Marriott, which was staple, which can be introduced. So it could be a case of sitting down and looking either as a team or maybe as a wider sales strategy team at the business that has come in, the inquiries that have come in. Did we make the right decision? Is there anything we could have done to convert that business? Shamelessly plugging our virtual selling session we've got coming up. Could they turn it into a hybrid event instead of losing the business? I know it's obvious, but each inquiry needs to be looked at its own merits, doesn't it now? Whereas before we might have turned it away. Actually be a really nice piece of business for us now.
I don't think we can afford to, sales teams can afford to turn it away unless they can't physically accommodate, or if they can't accommodate it, certainly to go back and provide a positive solution or an advice, or no, we can't do it, however you may want to try XYZ or whatever. I think also this leads me nicely on to picking the phone up.
Which is the title of your next blog, isn't it?
It is the title of my next blog.
And it's a bugbear of mine when people just email instead of picking the phone up, so I agree.
Some of the team I know are a little bit hesitant about picking the phone up, and that's all about telephone confidence, isn't it? And having the confidence to know what you're saying. And just, I always look at the telephone as the person at the other end of the phone doesn't realise that prior to picking the phone up, but you are actually providing some information to them.
Yes,
and that's sort of how I would suggest people look at the telephone. But going back to that whole, we receive an RFP or receive an inquiry, it's via email. It's again picking that phone up to say thank you so much. You know, we really appreciate you thinking of us as a venue for this whatever event that's taking place. And again, it's about standing out, isn't it?
Definitely.
You as a venue now.
If you're the only one that's
out,
doing that, and everybody else is just sending a bog standard reply.
That's it. You've got to stand out. And you know, it might be even where you actually turn around and say, thank you so much for the inquiry, keep an eye on the post, and then send something like a bento box for the chef just to say thank you, or a bottle of wine. It actually doesn't cost a lot, but you know, as we know, it will stand, you know, it will stand instead in years to come when an inquiry comes in, they go, oh my God, remember XYZ at so venue, they were so nice. They'll
remember us, And also, I think when you pick up the phone, I know that, again, this is obvious, but you can find out more information than you can in that probably just standard email that somebody sent out. And you might even find that originally you thought you couldn't do the business, but actually with a bit of workings out and a bit of discussions, you might actually be able to do it. So I'm totally with you on picking up the phone. Really am.
It's funny, isn't it? I think we're old school.
We are old school, aren't we? Yeah. And I think you used to leave, if I'm honest with some of my old team, I think there was an element of laziness a little bit in there. And I think that was because they were just so busy. I think they just thought if they could just get it, check, can't do it, get it off. I don't need to kind of. And hopefully, I mean, I know that sales teams are not busy at the moment. I know they're probably being pulled into all sorts of different directions. But fingers crossed, they might have that little bit more time to spend on those that come in that way.
And if all else fails, you know, ask the GM to make the call, or the senior man, whoever, the owner, whoever it may be, because again, you know, a client receiving a call from the general manager of a hotel to say thank you, my team's looking at it, but I wanted to take the time out to give you a call, or the sales director.
It's a big wow, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And there's many times I used to in my past drag GM out. Right, come on,
drag him out, you're coming out, come out your hole.
Come out, and he's like, no, I don't want to.
We used to do the same. We used to have lack of value level. I mean, I appreciate that might be out the window at the moment because, like we say, we're looking for all business, but we used to have a value level, and if it was a certain value, I would say, right, you need to call these people, you need to attend this show round. You know, we really need to kind of like push the boat out for this one. So although my GM used to love it at the time, he you couldn't stop him. So he was the opposite.
And then, well, I've had a couple of GMs that one was that shy as anything, and I'd have to drag him out of his office, like, please, would you just come out and say hello? And another one where I had to say, you're going to have to stop talking because they're really bored of you now. So it's funny, isn't it? It just goes to show we all have different GMs. But
absolutely
anyway.
Brilliant. I do think as well, I mean, I know we've talked about strategy and everything, but in order to make sure we look at all the opportunities properly, we need to make sure that the sales team have all the other sales tools that they need. So they've got those capacities to what they are now, you know, now that the social distance is in place. Hopefully we've got images that they can use to send clients. Hopefully there's new capacity charts and floor plans that have been put together. So they're not kind of like looking at it, trying to work out, can we do that? Can't we do that?
They're prepared beforehand, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really, it's and of course, you know, going back to the preparation, you know, there are going to be clients that don't actually want a show round as such. They're going to want an appointment virtually, and it's making sure your sales team know what to do for that virtual appointment.
Definitely.
And how to conduct it, which is a huge big plug now, because of course
I know you're plugging now.
We've got our 3-day virtual selling for hotels.
Nice segue there, Amanda. I like it.
Thank you. 17th to the 19th of August.
Yes, no, it's going to be good. We'll be talking about all things hybrid events, where if you don't know what they are, Ashanti from EventMind will tell you exactly what they are.
That's it, yeah.
And then Kate and I are going to talk about how to sell them. And I know that yourself and Fem are talking about virtual appointments and virtual show rounds, aren't you?
Yeah, show rounds. So yeah,
good
so
plug.
sorry, that's good plug there.
Good plug.
But again, it's about that support, isn't it? Ensuring your sales team know how to do that and are confident. You know, sharing on a Zoom call and sharing screens to a potential client or agent. And also going back to the, you know, if your venue or hotel is fortunate to have a 3D video, you know, that your sales team know how to navigate around a 3D video and how then to actually show that to the client virtually, which I think is, you know, it's going to be really important, isn't it?
It's going to be huge, isn't it? I remember I bought a car, I think it was about a year ago, and I couldn't get to the place where I was going to buy the car. It was quite a long way away, and I didn't want to waste time going all the way if it wasn't the right car. And the guy just did a personal video around the car for me, you know, a little bit of himself, and then he showed me around the car. And that was brilliant. And it was such a simple thing. But I mean, I didn't end up buying it because it wasn't the car for me, but it did make me feel like I wanted to buy from him because he'd done something that was so unique and so different. And I guess that's something we can do as well, isn't it?
But look, you're now talking about something that happened a year ago when you actually never purchased from this chap.
Exactly. And I would probably now consider him again now. My car needs, well, it probably does. It needs a clean, but when it needs changing again,
Yeah.
Excellent. So I think we are nearly at the end of our session. Is anything else that you want to add? Because obviously you've done this blog post. And I've
done the blog post.
I think lots of things.
I think next week we're talking about the second part of the blog post. So that's same time, 9:30.
Yeah, I think next week it's actually sales messages clients don't want to hear right now, which we it's one of the things me and Kate talked about when we did the delegate wranglers. It was really interesting, and lots of people were engaged in that. So that should be great. So yeah, we'll be live again next Friday at 9:30 every day. Every Friday, and they said every day. Then I'm not going to commit to that. Every Friday at 9:30, Savvy Says session. And I'm just going to quickly share, in case anybody wants a wee bit more information, the slide about, bear with me, this is really professional, here we go, the virtual selling course that you very, very well, you know, plugged and already. But this is, like you say, it's a virtual selling for hotels. It's in collaboration with the HBAA. So if you're a HBAA member, you do get a special rate. So it's selling hybrid events on the 17th, virtual show rounds on the 18th, and successful virtual appointments on the 19th. And they're little bite-sized sessions, so nobody has to take a massive time out of the office. We'll share a link if you wanted to book that in the comments field. So it's been lovely to talk to you on this sunny Friday morning, Amanda.
And
same time next week, eh?
Same time next week. Look forward to it.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
And you. Have a nice weekend. Bye. Bye.